Welcome back to The Change Physician. I am Melissa Cady, the Challenge Doctor, with my co-host from the West Coast, Dr. Kevin Cuccaro, bringing you something we haven't done in a very long time, which since it's on Monday, it's got to be an M, so Monday Motivations. Normally we do our Saturday salutations or Sunday salutations, but being that I was a little under the weather, as you might be able to hear in my nose, we pushed it off till today. So most time our salutations obviously are just for Kevin and I to say hi and to catch up with or share what we're doing in the podcast. You want me to go ahead and share what was recently, or
are we? I'm just trying to check because I'm not sure if it's not showing up on the Oh yeah, okay. It just didn't show up on my alarm. Okay, whatever. I was like, usually I go log into Facebook and then it'll say, "Oh, Change Physician is doing something," and this time, like doing nothing. But that's probably Facebook doing its Facebooky things.
Oh, okay.
Like, let's see. Oh, yeah. So anyway, go ahead. I'm now I found it.
The most recent release, we had a little bit of a hiatus at the end of August. I guess you'd call it a little summer vacation. But September 7th, we had a What is Your Ikigai? Did I say that right? Mm-hmm. Ikigai. And we'll post, for those of you who don't know, Instagram is where we put little reminders of our podcast episodes at the Change Physician. So you can take a peek at that. In fact, the visual for the Ikigai, there are worksheets and all kinds of different, there are people that say, oh, this is just the modern modified version of Ikigai and, what the wording is. And there's originals that, you'll find all different kinds of versions of them. But you can check out the most commonly, I think, shared one. It'll be on the image that comes out on Instagram this next week. So that was episode 253. I enjoyed being questioned by Kevin about what my loves are and where I think my skills are. And one little tip, there may be more than one for you, but as Kevin pointed out to me, but if you want more detail, you have to go to the episode. So any comments on that one, Kevin?
No, other than, a lot of it's, when you're like, there's all these different worksheets, everybody's got to put their spin on everything. We put our spin on it too, but there's like the foundational thing is kind of like finding meaning, or where's your meaning in what you do.
Right.
And how important that is. So
yeah. I think as a human, we're always evolving in our lives and our understandings of things, and trying to always reassess where we are in that and what brings us the most joy. Before I forget, today's September 11th, 9/11, 2001, obviously, in remembrance of a lot of people's lives were lost. But my dad was born on this day, so saying happy birthday to my dad in case he's listening. And my husband's dad died on the same day, which not the exact same year, but it's one of those days that it's hard to ignore. So, but the positive thing is that it's my dad's birthday. So happy birthday. Yeah.
This is sort of an interesting date. I just say, like, I think we talked about this. It's like, I remember, I know I could tell you exactly where I was.
Oh, yeah.
In 2001.
Yeah. When did we do that talk? Was that on a salutations?
It might have been on a Saturday salutations. It was lost. I think it must have been last year or the year before it, because we were close to, or maybe we recorded something.
Yeah.
Maybe we did a Sunday, because I think it was a Sunday last year. But yeah,
very
it's
possible.
Interesting date that sort of changed everything. And
oh yeah, even how we go through the airports.
Oh, people just don't have a clue. Different. Like people who didn't fly pre 9/11, you just don't have it was so easy.
Yeah,
it was so easy. And actually, even right after 9/11, it was pretty easy for a couple of months, because I did a couple, I think at least one flight after that, maybe two. And it was totally empty, so there's nobody there. And then they add all this stuff in there. But God, it was so weird. So yeah, I don't know. And some of the change, what I wish? I kind of wish what we did in politics. I would wish this in medicine. We're supposed to do in medicine. We don't. but that if we would actually like institute a policy and then do like an actual review of it and see how well it's working.
Yeah.
Rather than just institute this stuff and then leave it there. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me that one of my big takeaways from 9/11 outside of the loss of life and everything was, the biggest problem they found, if I'm remembering this correctly, was that we had so many federal agencies that didn't share information that was how the 9/11 hijackers got through it, right? There was nobody put to take together. And so I'm like, okay, wait a second. So the problem is too many organizations. So maybe you need to consolidate or do something. And Bush's solution was to create a new organization. And I just remember that was so weird. Like that was, and it's such a stupid name. Homeland Security. I hate that name. Like it sounds like something out of some weird dystopian novel. But I'm like, it just didn't make a lot of sense. It's like, okay, the problem is too much bureaucracy. So let's add another layer of bureaucracy to this. Anyway. Yeah. And then, the flying stuff, I would be really kind of curious to see what works, what doesn't, taking off your shoes because of the shoe bomber dude. Does it really make a difference or not? Or, I mean, how much of it is just we do this stuff because someone thought it was a good idea and then we never check again?
Yeah. And it's funny because it's like, if someone wants to do a bad thing, they're going to find the other thing that's not being checked. Like there's always, you can do your basics, but like you said, like one person does this and it's like, what are the chances out of millions of people that this would happen again? But it's also one of those things that it's just, if someone's always one step ahead and they know how to to navigate around these things, and they're going to find a way. I know it sounds horrible and you're trying to prevent stuff, but you're not always going to be able to prevent things. Just the nature.
Well, and I think that you got to put a minimum of safety in there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we should go back to pre 9/11 anything. Like, I don't necessarily agree that, but I do think
you have 3.2 ounces versus 3 ounces of a liquid. Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's a perfume bottle. Or it's a gift with a globe with the little shaky things in it.
Yeah.
Somehow,
well, of course, I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't. I wish we would review this stuff a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that there's always going to be someone who finds the way. And so the game is always just to make it more difficult to find whatever that way is. Sure. Whatever. But I mean, we're talking safety here, but that same thing with tax policy, because our tax in this country is ridiculous, but it should be simplified in such a way, and the exemptions in such a way so that it's not so difficult. But there's always, just like that, there's always people who are taking advantage of there's always people who just take advantage of stuff, and they make it more difficult for everybody else. Whatever it is, they get more difficult. People, physicians complain about prior authorizations. Well, the reasons we have prior authorizations is because there are people who take advantage of medicine, and people do a bunch of crap that's not appropriate. And rather than get necessarily mad at a prior auth, why don't we get mad at the people who are scammers? Because they're the ones that do this. And because of them, the rest of us who are basically doing the things that we need to do pay the price. And I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, it would be just neat if they could, if anything, like even the prior auth thing, there should be something there should be a filter. How many of this procedure or whatever is being, I don't know, there'd be a way for it to kind of filter through so that the pediatrician who's ordering a brain MRI for a patient that they're worried it has a glio, and they don't order MRIs on every single patient, that somehow that gets factored in the algorithm, and then they don't get hassled while the person is overbilling and is cramming 3 people through and has gotten it systemized down and goes, I'm going to order this, this, and this because I can bill this, this, and this, and this.
Yeah.
That they get flagged, and then the prior authorizations go to them. Of course, then they can, you're being unfair to me. Well, no, I would say, look at what you're billing. look what you're doing, and look at this thing, and this is why we have this extra step in here. And so we make these extra steps on the people that are abusing the system. And then they, if they're doing it legit, and then maybe they'll clear out and they won't get these flags anymore. But man, it just pisses me off I don't know how this went a long way from 9/11, but it's like, these terrorists that go in there, and now I have to take off my shoes all the time. Although, we finally just decided to do global entry and stuff.
Yeah. Like global entry.
Make it a little bit easier.
Yeah. I shouldn't say that was a very poor choice of words, that global entry is the bomb, but it really is. Ooh, yeah.
They don't say that in the airport for sure. Yeah. Huh? They don't say that in the airport for sure.
No, don't say that ever. Anyway, so since it's Monday Motivations, let me congratulate, even though Coco Gauff will never know who I am.
Yeah.
But, teenager, I forgot exactly how the titles went, but it's the last time a teenager won US Open was Serena, I think in 2002 or somewhere around there.
There's 4 Americans that were teenagers in one.
And they're as Corey made a point to tell me, my husband, he said, "You've never sat down to watch a full tennis match with me." And I was like, because I'm always distracted. Excuse me. And I literally was kind of engaged with it. And I think I just felt there's something about Coco. It just has, for a 19-year-old, she has her head is pretty damn leveled. And I feel like she is so athletic, and maybe there's a little part of me, a sliver of me, that not envy in a bad way. I really wish I was exposed to tennis as a young girl. I feel like it would have been my game. And so actually in the middle of this, talk about being motivated, I'm like, Corey, I'm going to be 50 next year, and I want to go take tennis lessons. I keep talking about it.
That's awesome.
And I don't do it, and I'm not getting any younger. And I'm like, you know what? I don't have to prove myself, because, most of these people have to prove themselves by their 20s at the latest to really, show their excellence in tennis. But I'm like, there's so many good benefits to it. You engage with other people, you move, you can go as fast or as slow as you want. You get outside, and the commissioner or whoever was presenting to the US Open male champions, I think they said something about how, there was some study that came out on the physical benefits, or the top, one of the best sports to play your whole lifetime, because it just from the wellness benefits. I don't know what that was based on, but there's no doubt it's one of the sports you could play at any age, as long as you're physically capable. Even wheelchair people, they can do amazing things in the wheelchair and still play tennis. So anyway, I'm like you said about some of the things you've done and you challenged yourself with. I'm like, I'm going to challenge myself with a little bit of tennis.
So when did you set up your lessons?
I haven't set it up yet, but I started looking around online at what's local. And I already know that there's a place called Gray Rock that's not too far from here. And there's tennis courts right within 5 minutes of the house at the high school. I don't know if I'd be allowed to use it. So anyway, I've already started looking at options, but I'm looking at gifting that to myself next year. So spring, summertime. Yeah. Summertime? So I was motivated by Coco Gauff.
But you're in Austin. You don't want to do it in summer, do you?
Probably not in the summer, but springtime would not be a bad time. I have to figure out exactly when, if there's session packages that are certain times of the year. But
so it sounds like
usually
you
wait till
call
February.
That place today and say,
yeah, set it up.
The next state, that was one thing. One of the big takeaways I had.
Schedule it.
The Tony Robbins thing is, once you make the plan, always take immediate action.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whatever that may be, but I found that immediate action is usually when you contact somebody else about it. So it leaves your head, speaking from somebody who lives in his head all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be easy to do, since you already identified it. So it's got to be convenient. So it's the closest one to you. And then, so you should call him today. I'm going to challenge you to do that.
Even if it's just personal little lessons, I'd rather it be that way than a class, or, where you have several people. I'd like for Corey to do it with me at some point.
And why wait until you're 50? Why don't say like, oh, maybe second, I'll just took an intro course. I'll do an intro lesson.
Yeah, well, I'm not far from 50 yet, so I'm saying. It's only what? Oh boy, let's see. October, November, December. I'm only 7 months away from 50. So yeah, we'll figure it out. I'll have to see. I want to buy a little book or find there's plenty of stuff online and just kind of learn like just a little bit more detail, the basic. Even though I kind of know the rules, it's like there's some nuances, that you want to make sure you understand. But sometimes I'm do better at learning that stuff if I'm actively doing it. I'm a good athlete that way. I don't like to sit there and study a course on it. I just watch and I learn as I go. But anyway, so that's the Monday motivation. If you have a little inspiration and you've never done something, just go do it and try it. And I wish I had tried it younger, because I have a feeling I'd be drawn into it. So sorry. Anything else you'd like to add? As I'm coughing on my lung.
Oh no, I mean, from a motivation standpoint, I think that's pretty cool. It's like, identify and do it. And then and this is, and to remind people and remind me specifically, you can try it and you can always change your mind later or adapt it. It's like the biggest thing is just do it and try it and see it. And if you like it, that's great. And if not, then you can revise it and do something later. But if you sit around and think I'm going to do this, and then you do it, or you make plans 16 steps down the line, creating problems that haven't even existed yet. Like, oh, well, if I start my tennis lessons, then I can't do this or this, that's, just do it. Like the Nike slide. But
well, it's just like anything else. Like sometimes the idea of it sounds a lot better than the reality of it. And even like if your eyes get bigger than your stomach, sometimes.
Well, and I mean, so my big motivations this last year was to do this wing foiling thing.
Right.
And I haven't talked about it in a long time, and it's because I ran into some roadblocks with it. So here's a learning lessons on Monday motivation. So I discovered this stuff last fall. The problem with last fall is that we went into winter, and theoretically I could have gone to a lake with like 8 millimeter wetsuit and somehow done this on my own, trying to do this stuff, which was insane. So I didn't do it. So I knew I had to wait. Then I scheduled early lessons and had a great time, took my kids to do it. Did the second lesson, was a little bit more frustrating because my progress was a lot slower. And then the summer came, and then our summer was really busy. Like from, I took my first lesson, I think the last week in April or the first week in May. I took a second lesson the first week in June. And then things got so busy that I wasn't able, well, I hate the able thing, but being able to I was not willing to invest the time to do another lesson because of the lack of time doing all this other stuff. Something would have had to be sacrificed there.
Yeah.
And then when we were in Mexico, I was going to try to take a lesson. And actually we went to a place, but it ends up being the slow season. I should have called them a couple of days in advance. I planned that wrong. And then by the time I got back, like by the time June and July was over, what I started realizing was whatever you do, like you need low barrier. And particularly when you're learning something, you want to make sure you can put the time. Like tennis would be time on the court. This would be time on the water.
Yeah.
And so the biggest roadblock that I've identified through this process was my schedules are in the summer, particularly. Well, and it'll probably be most of the time we do a bunch of stuff in the summer. So those are really challenging. And then when you have something that you have to drive a long distance to and or to facilitate it. So the closest lessons to me are 2 hours away.
Wow.
No. Long, like 3 hours away, and then Flores was 4 hours away. You have to, now I've had long way to say is I've had to revise my goal because it was harder to do.
Yeah.
Didn't have that much time. And then now I'm like, well, how do I incorporate a water sport such as this or this water Spartan? So now I'm down to like, I'll probably have to buy some equipment such that I can do it on my own. But I'm not going to buy the equipment until I identify local resources that are easy for me to get to. Because I know me, And if there's anything in there on a day that I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. Like,
right.
I have to drive an hour, or, I'm not very spontaneous when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just a long way to say is do it. And then just understand things are going to change. So I had this big plans for the summer, and it all went all over the place simply because there wasn't enough time. And I'm like, 3 lessons in the summer it's not gonna, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be too. So yeah, Tennosel, if you got a place close to you, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Even if they cost more than someplace else.
It's what?
Even if it costs more than someplace else. I mean, if you're going to say 15 to 20 minutes, I would go with more expensive places closer and more convenient, as long as you like the group or like whoever they are.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to go explore it. I was thinking of doing that next week. And then there's a place that I tried dancing at one time, and they changed their location to closer to me, and it's maybe 10 minutes away. And it's kind of like they have bachata and like all these salsa and all kinds of variations of dancing. And it's mainly women, it seems like, most of the time. So, it's kind of like almost like a workout class, but you just have a whole bunch of dancing going on. So I was actually going to go check that out too. So this next year, I'm looking at tennis and dancing. So we'll see if it transpires the way I anticipate. So
yeah,
there you go. You got it all right here
all
today
there.
On the Monday Motivations. And I'm very motivated to get active again, especially being under the weather over the weekend. So, well, why don't you take us out unless you have something else to say?
No, we're all good. So, Well, thank you all for joining us for this Monday Motivations. If you remember way back when, over 2 years ago, that's where we started, was with Monday Motivations. As always, you can join us on Saturday Salutations, or Sunday Salutations, but generally on the weekends, usually Saturday, from about 12 Pacific or 2 p.m. Central. We're live on Facebook there, and you can join the community at thechangephysician.com. And until next time, stay well.
Take care.